In a surprising turn of events, Brad Treliving spoke to the media today and revealed a lot of interesting information, including his intent to make a trade very, very soon for a blue liner, as well as John Klingberg. He revealed the truth behind that situation. So you're going to want to stay tuned for all that in this episode of Leafs Digest. But before you do get into the video, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 5,000. About 80% of you guys who are watching this video right now are not subscribed. So scroll down, hit the subscribe button if you aren't already, as we make videos every single day on the Maple Leafs. All right, let's get into the first topic of the day today, which is Brad Treliving reveals a trade is coming. Now, Darius, I did not expect to make this video today. Brad Treliving surprised everyone, surprised Leafs fans. Obviously, Leafs Nation is not in a very, very good place right now following 2 losses in a row, one of them against the Blackhawks. We're putting that in the past. Brad Treliving comes out against the media and reveals some interesting things. This was the first quote about a potential trade. This was what he said based on exploring the trade market. He said, quote, "I think that's your job all the time because you're trying to help your team now. The idea that you're always going to trade yourself out of issues isn't realistic," which worried me a little bit because I was thinking maybe he's not going to say anything about actually making a trade. And then he goes on to say that he makes it clear he wants to trade for a defenseman to improve the banged up blue line. Quote, "It was an area that we wanted to see if we could strengthen regardless." So Darius, it seems that a move is coming. GM taking a little bit of accountability. What are your thoughts on this? We all kind of know Nikita Zadorov, Chris Tanev, those are 2 guys that have been on the radar, and I'm hoping this means that he's actively pushing for a defenseman trade, and I'm happy to see him speak out following a very, very disappointing season so far, especially since returning from Stockholm.
It's really nice to see, and it's really refreshing to hear the Leafs GM kind of admit things that we can see with our own eyes. I feel like the last few years we've kind of been gaslit into, certain guys are going to outplay, what you can see on the ice just by watching on TV. And here we are. He's like, no, this team is simply not good enough, right? And we're about a quarter way through the season at this point. The benchmark is usually American Thanksgiving. If you're in the playoffs, you're looking good. If you're out of the playoffs, not so great. So you can really evaluate where your team is at. And the Leafs simply are not good enough. It's no surprise, right? When you look at the defense score, Nick, we've been talking for weeks about, Simone Benoit, and we really like William Lagesson as well. A couple of these guys, they're simply just not good enough for a Stanley Cup winning roster. And this is what the Leafs are. They are going for a Stanley Cup. They're in their window, right? And the defense core with guys like that on it regularly is just not good enough. You got Mark Giordano at 40 years old as well. The wheels are going to fall off at some point if he continues to play at this level consistently all throughout the year. They need some more bodies in there. So to hear Treliving come out and say that and, kind of tell the fans, listen, I can recognize this. I see this with my own eyes. This is a problem. I want to fix it. It's nice. It's refreshing. And I think for all Leaf fans, the way the last 2 games has gone against opponents you have to beat, there needs to be something. Something needs to be shaken up because the team is simply just not good enough.
Yeah, and he came out at a very, very good time when there's a lot of panic. But, you mentioned it. You can have guys like Benoit come up for a few games, but we're at a point now where the blue line is so banged up that they can't play extended periods of time if you're trying to compete for a Stanley Cup, and he admitted it. And he also admitted that you can't always trade yourself out of issues. You see it with a bunch of different teams, including the Maple Leafs. We have so many players, not so many, we have a lot of players underperforming. Specifically, the highlight has been on Mitch Marner. We need a mix of, making a big trade like Nikita Zadorov and Chris Tanev, whoever. I'll ask you your personal targets in a second here, but guys like that to help, maybe bring a bit of a boost to the team, but then you also need the guys on the existing team already to step up and play better, whether that's the first line with, Nyes and Matthews and Marner, and then we have Nylander as well. He's been phenomenal, so I'm not going to point fingers at Nylander, but the team itself needs to have some internal improvement as well as a trade, because I agree with Treliving here. A trade, obviously, it should help your issues, but it's not going to be a major difference. There isn't someone out there good enough to make them instantly like Stanley Cup favorites per se. But if they have an addition along with the way their guys are playing now, if they can improve that, that's big. But I don't know. I think they need to have some improvements, but they also need to make a big trade to hopefully maybe bring some energy to this team. And there's been talks about Sheldon Keefe maybe getting fired, which is ridiculous. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any potential trade targets in mind, maybe aside from Nikita Zadorov?
Well, first of all, Sheldon Keefe getting fired, it's just not going to happen. So anybody hoping for that, it's not going to happen. MLSE was really mad about the Babcock situation. They just signed him for a multi-year contract last summer. I think it's 2 to 3 years, depending on performance. It's not going to happen. So let's just get that out of our heads. They're going to ride it through with Sheldon Keefe. And I think he's a good coach. His winning percentage is good as well. But like you were saying, I think defense, when you look at the defense, it is something that needs to be fixed via a trade. I don't know if the personnel is there to, up their game. It's not the fact that they're not playing well. It's they just don't have the pieces to compete at the NHL level as a group. They do have some very good pieces, but as a group, they're just not good enough. So like we said, the Calgary Flames trade makes a ton of sense. Like it's been reported that one of the Leafs said to Zadorov, "You're the type of player we need on this team." And it's true. He's big. He plays physical. He can chip in here and there, right? Tanev, another guy, right-handed defenseman. They have none of those now. I feel like the Leafs' entire defense core is left-handed now with Klingberg out. They need a right-handed defenseman back there, and he's a tough guy to play against. It's a couple guys who are tough to play against. So those two are number 1 and 2 on my list. But I think you just have to look around the league and find defensemen who are tough to play against. They have the skill on the blue line still. If you can make the salary work, you need to get guys who are tough to play against. I'm sick and tired of the skill stuff. If the skill guys want to come up, once Morgan Riley's, prime is over, that's great. But for right now in this window, they need to be a tough team to play against. And in terms of the forwards, like you mentioned as well, it's the old saying, you got to find it in the room. The answer is in the room. Mitch Marner is not performing to what we know he can. He needs to find his game. Austin Matthews as well started the year off great. I don't know if he's injured, but the last couple of games, he has not done much. And they're both making, north of $11 million. They need to find their game because no help is coming in terms of offense. They need to find it. Nylander's been great. Tavares has been great as well. But the big guys like Matthews and Marner, they have to find their game.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially regarding the blue line. Let's make some trades, Brad. Let's hurry it up and get it going. But let us know what your thoughts are.
Why are we waiting?
Yeah, hurry up and get it done. But quick reminder or topic now is he also revealed the truth a bit behind Klingberg and kind of pinpointed when the exact injury occurred. And I just want to get your thoughts on this. We spoke about Klingberg at lengths. The situation is finally starting to wrap itself up with him going on the LTIR a few days back. But he said that there will be clarity on Klingberg's status this week. Confirmed it is a hip injury sustained in the first road trip in Florida. He is meeting with a team doctor in New York this week. And he basically goes on to say that it happened on the October 19th game. And this wasn't something that we knew the player was injured and we went and signed him anyhow. We knew the history of the player, but we didn't anticipate that there was going to be an issue. So that's good. It's not good, but it is good at least covering Brad Treliving's feet in the sense of the trade happened at a game so far throughout this season. Obviously, he's been injury prone his whole career. But any thoughts on this? It's a bit interesting, but he kind of saved himself there by saying that the injury occurred and he pinpointed a specific date, October 19th against the Florida Panthers.
Well, it certainly makes me feel better about it in terms of not the injury itself, but the fact that they didn't sign an injured player thinking that this was going to happen. It was clear that he'd been playing injured the last few games that he did play. So it makes sense that the Florida game was kind of that, game that it happened. But, like we talked about in a previous video, sucks for Klingberg as a player. Obviously, you signed him so he can have an impact. You would like to see that impact. But I think it's pretty interesting that they mentioned seeing a team doctor in New York, because this to me looks like it might be a second, third, maybe even fourth opinion that they're going for now. This is leading to surgery, I think, which is not good for Klingberg. And, depending how you look at it, maybe good for the Leafs, maybe not good for the Leafs. They're saving money on the cap with him and long-term injury reserve. But this to me, clearly he's gone through the whole Toronto circuit with doctors. I think now it's looking more like this doesn't look like I can rehab something like this, especially because it's the hip. And now he's looking at, surgery, which is going to keep him out, long term. He could be out for the rest of the year, probably out for the rest of the year. If you got surgery, then you have to rehab it after. So this is not looking good for Klingberg coming back, which I think is pretty interesting. It opens up a lot of doors for the Leafs with that freed up salary cap.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, at least from what Treliving is saying, he's going to be back anytime soon. But it does bring some closure for us as Leafs fans, at the very least, knowing that they didn't go out and sign a guy who, albeit injury prone, was not injured when they signed him because it happened back in the game. Well, that'll wrap up the video. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are, and let me know what your ideal trade would be for the Maple Leafs to fix this team, whether that's most likely the blue line or if you have some other crazy thoughts. That'll wrap up the video. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you later.